Right, fellas. Anyway, we've got that. We've got that one over and done with. So I'll not make a fool of myself. So we've got Andy Quay here. Quay,
Quite, yeah.
Quay. Right, there we go. I'm still learning.
I've been called all sorts of things over the years, so don't worry about it.
Currently at Burton Albion as the head of goalkeeping. So he's overseeing the first team and all the academy goalkeeping as well. Previously at Stoke and Brentford as well. So an absolute wealth of experience here. So I don't know, Andy, do you want to just give us a brief background to yourself and what you've done, what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, my background really, obviously, loved playing football as a kid. I was lucky enough to join Spurs as a YTS. Didn't get a professional contract at 18 or after the YTS, which is, what would be for those that don't know what a YTS is your two professional years, 16 to 18 as a scholar academy player at the moment. Didn't get a professional contract. Moved to Derby. Had 3 years there as a professional, Grimsby, and then played non-league at Hereford United and Hounslow Town, Belper Town. Couple of knee injuries. Came away from playing and into coaching really. I'd always worked as a coach or helped as a coach, even as an academy player, if you like, at Tottenham. I used to go and help coach the younger kids as well, go and help the full-time coaches there with the younger kids from time to time, and certainly did that as well when I was at Derby as a professional. And that was always something I've loved and enjoyed, was the coaching side of it. And as my playing time came to a very early end, if you like, that's what sort of took over, and along with a few other things, but coaching really took over, and found myself at Derby's academy first of all, coaching there. Did some work with the football in the community, so the real grassroots coaching, academy coaching at Derby County. Had sort of 2.5 years there, and then moved to Aston Villa and worked with their academy for 3 seasons there as well.
Brilliant. So from obviously going from kind of grassroots working in the community to working in the academy, you then jumped into Stoke, so you ended up landing the first team.
Yeah. I suppose I sort of cut that short a little bit, really. Yeah, but so from there, so from Aston Villa's academy, I then had an opportunity to work with Lincoln's first team and Mansfield's first team part time, and took that, worked with both clubs for a little while. In the end, I sort of just stayed with Lincoln throughout that season, working with their first team, which was I saw as a step up in terms of what I wanted to do, to work with first team players. And then at the end of that season, the opportunity came up at Stoke again to work for full part time with the first team, and that was 2007-2008 season. So right at the start of that season, I received a phone call to say that Tony Pulis was looking for someone. Did I want to go and speak to him? So I had a meeting with Tony, and at the end of that, he offered me a job on a part-time basis, 2 days a week, as things were then in the Championship at the time. We're going back probably nearly 15 years, 13, 15 years, and so coaches were still part-time in the Championship then, and 2 days a week, match days, and we were lucky enough to get promoted that season, which was absolutely fantastic. Never in my wildest dreams at the start of that season did I think that we'd get promoted, that's for sure. And then at the end of that season, we've been promoted to the Premier League. Went full time and had 10 fantastic years in the Premier League with Stoke City. It was fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. So how, going from, as I say, from academy, so working with young players, to going to Lincoln, to then getting a Stoke job, how did you find that transition from working with children to kind of working smaller leagues to then going to work with, I suppose at the time it was some elite goalkeepers. So you had, would have been Steve Simonson.
Yeah,
Thomas
Steve Simonson. Thomas came in at the start of the Premier League. Yeah, so we had Steve Simonson was the number one at the time. Carlo Nash came in towards the end of the season on loan and played the last 11 games, I think it was, and sort of got us over the line, if you like. So yeah, but good goalkeepers within their own right. Been professionals a long time. Both of them late 20s at the time, and got a wealth of experience. Steve Simonson had been was an Everton goalkeeper at one point and had done really well, and Carlo Nash had been at a number of clubs, Middlesbrough, to name one of them, but he's been at a lot of clubs. But yeah, and been a really good goalkeeper in his own right. So it was the transition really for me was something. I wouldn't say it was never easy, but it just seemed to flow really. But the biggest thing I sort of found, and I would say to any young coach or aspiring coach, is the pathway that I've had was a real grounding for getting to become a professional coach and working at the top level, and that comes down to being prepared, understanding your sessions and what you need to get out of those sessions, and adapting them. The sessions may not change too much, but it's those little adaptations that you make to make them work for a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 21-year-old. And it's how you adapt them and how you manipulate them to work for those different age groups. But certainly for somebody who wants to be as an aspiring coach, the grounding was fantastic because it's walking out on a pitch and you know what you want to do, and then you put the cones out or you put your equipment out and you move it a foot or a couple of yards, and what do I want to get out of it and how does that change, and those things you can't buy that. You get a lot of professional players that go into coaching and all of a sudden the grass looks different when they become a coach, and they have to work out for themselves, how big should the pitch be, how big should the area be, how many players have I got, all these things that when you walk out as a player you just expect to happen and you take it for granted, and then all of a sudden you think, well, what age are the players? Is it a 5v5? Is it 7v7? Is it 9v9? How big should I make it? What do I want to get out of the session to adapt it, a session to what am I going to get out of it? Do I want high intensity? Do I want lots of long distance running? Certainly from a goalkeeping point of view, if you keep it tight, you might get lots of blocks and 1v1 type saves, and then if you stretch the pitch you might get some more distance strikes and lots of angled strikes. So they're certainly from a goalkeeping point of view, they're the sorts of things that you'd have to take into consideration.
So was that something that you were really involved in as well? So I mean, I'm quite big on the integration side of things. So was it a case of you would maybe go and do a little bit of technical work, a little bit of conditioning work with the goalkeepers, and then you had a big say in how a session was designed to incorporate the goalkeepers into an outfield practice to get those returns?
Yeah, certainly early on at Derby, that was really encouraged. I had some really good coaches around me: John Peacock, Gary Bowyer, Steve Taylor. Really good coaches that wanted the goalkeepers to develop. We had some good goalkeepers at the time. Lee Camp was one of them. Obviously gone on to have a fantastic career in most leagues, but predominantly the Championship, the Premier League. But he's had a really good career, and they wanted to develop the goalkeepers, and that was something that the coaches really bought into, and that was great for me early on. And it's something that I've tried to. I've always been able to push with the coaches and the managers that I've worked with to, like you say, to integrate, to have a big influence on the sessions, and to be able to. Firstly, as goalkeeping coaches, we have to understand what the manager and the outfield coaches want to get from the session for themselves. But then we need to put our point of view across as a coach and say, well, if that's what you want to get, how can I fit in what I need to get out as well for these goalkeepers? How can we best develop the goalkeepers within that? So whether it be a start position or an end of phase, how does it look for the goalkeeper, and what are the criteria that the goalkeeper is going to get out of that session as well?
Yeah, and how much does that change? Kind of, I know we spoke earlier. You like to be involved, kind of like across the board. Mm-hmm. So going from first team to academy, let's say under 10s, does that look the same, or would you expect something different from an under 9s, under 10 goalkeeper to what you would want a senior goalkeeper to get out of a session?
I think the coaches that you'd certainly want to be getting different elements out of the sessions from different age groups, and the details within a session. If it's an angled shot stopping type session, if we use that as an example, for seniors, the session would be set up slightly different, and they may not know that that's what's happening, but that's what we're getting out of it at the end of it. Certainly for sort of 9s, 12s, 15s, then they would understand why the session is set up. But in terms of the integration, I'll call it the battle, but the ongoing conversations with the coaches remain the same. It's just a different pressure and a different level. And, an under 9s coach will always want to outfield coach predominantly, and I don't mean to put them all in one basket, but will predominantly have his outcomes that he wants and a real firm idea on what it is he wants to get out of the session. And he won't want the goalkeeper to spoil that, if that makes sense from some points of view.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change at senior level. Well, we want him to approve at this, Mr. Manager. So we need to put him under pressure within a session and allow him to get better. And that doesn't change whether it's, a 30-year-old senior goalkeeper or an 18-year-old or a 9-year-old. They still need to be put in match realistic situations. They need the pressure of their peers and people around them to be able to perform. And there'd be a consequence of those people being around them, but no consequence in terms of a result. So that's, for me, is a really important part. When goalkeepers work together, they work in a small group, they work in the union, if you like, and the pressure is being better than the next goalkeeper next to them. The next pressure is the integration within the group, how the group accept them in terms of the other outfield players, and how they're seen within that group. So it doesn't matter what age you are, you want to be seen to be the best goalkeeper within your age group when you're working in competitive sport. And those young players have to gain the respect, and like every other player in every other position, the goalkeeper will have he's my favourite centre half. I know he'll get some goals for me. He's the left back I like, and it's the same for the others. That's the goalkeeper I like and I feel comfortable with. But they all have to be put in a position where they can improve, and the pressure is just working within the team and showing their peers and their coaching staff that they can get better and be allowed to try things and be allowed to get better, not just have the pressure of a result in a game on them, and that's the only time they get put into that situation.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because it's a point I made a couple of weeks ago. It's about building trust and connections and really like being able to work as part of the team. So that integration, I think it's massive, and it's really good to hear it from somebody like yourself as well. I think that's probably one thing that's missed out massively. Even when I was in an academy, the goalkeepers were just kind of put in goal and, let's work with the outfielders. But where's that link? How do we link the goalkeeper to the team? How can they distribute effectively? How can they play effectively? So I mean, away from that, going back into your smaller groups of 3 or 4 goalkeepers, how would you kind of like prepare a goalkeeper to participate in those type of sessions?
So for me as a coach, I need an overview of certainly what the day's going to look like, if not what the week or the month's going to look like. But in professional footballs, you're more working day to day. More often than not, things change quite quickly. But, certainly within an academy, you would have a good understanding of what your week should look like in terms of that training week, what the criteria are that you're going to work to, what are we specifically working on as a team, what days are they going to be, what times are they going to be. So you'd have that understanding. It would then be sitting down with the coach and saying, look, we're doing some defensive phases on Tuesday morning. How are we going to fit the goalkeepers into that? Are we working on defending tight areas? Are we working on defending crosses? So you're breaking it down into those sections, really. And within that, my preparation, if it's defending crosses, if they say, yep, we need to stop crosses, we need to get better at stopping crosses as a midfield and a defensive unit. Okay, that's fine. I know we're going to be dealing with crosses. So within that, I would then structure my day to prepare us to go into that type of session. So it would be a crossing-based warm-up. We'd have a discussion about what we need to get out of the session in terms of communication, start positions. Is there pressure on the ball? What do we need from certain players? Scanning off the ball. All of those sorts of elements that come into it. So we have a good understanding once we go into that session. These are the 3 or 4 key elements that we need to be focused on, that we need to improve on, and these are what are going to help the team. So that would be the way that I would structure it. Like I said earlier, it all comes down to your planning and understanding what your coach is going to go into. And also, once you get into that session, you have to have the relationship with the coach or the manager to be able to coach yourself. You're not waiting for the manager to shout, "You should have come for that one." It's being able to, okay, let's break it down. Step in. Was there pressure on the ball? Could you have been a yard higher in your start position? Did you get sucked under the ball as it was struck? Or, can you hold your position a little bit longer, come late and quick and really attack the ball? Is it a catch or a punch? And be able to coach and have that relationship with the coach and the manager to pick the right times, but to be able to step in and coach your goalkeeper within that and possibly coach some of the outfield players as well.
Yeah, so did you always have a good relationship with the managers that you work with, that you had that understanding that you could go in and stop a session and work with the players that you needed to, or was it kind of a discussion beforehand before anything was done?
Yeah, no, there's always I think you build relationships with people as a coach so that you understand where the boundaries are. With some coaches I've worked with, then it's okay to hang on, stop. I need to have my say now. This is where we are. With other coaches, it maybe you're waiting for them to go away and discuss something else with another player. Then that's your time to manage your goalkeepers. So it's about, life's about building relationships and understanding people and the way that other people work. And, there'll always be times when you feel you have to impose your opinion and have to impose, say, stop, I need to talk. This is my time now. But there's also times when you have to accept that, the manager's the manager. And if he's taking a session, he'll dictate the flow of it. And then you have to give your information in and around that. And that's the art of coaching, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back into first team roles, I'm just thinking through some of the goalkeepers that you would have worked with, and the list of them. It's brilliant. So you've had, obviously, Thomas Sorensen.
Yeah.
So in terms of Premier League goalkeeper, he's, Mr. Reliable, isn't he?
Yes.
Asmir Begovic, he's still performing. He's outstanding currently in the Championship. Shea Given, probably in the argument of top 5 all-time Premier League goalkeepers. I would say Jack Butland.
Yeah,
probably been a little bit unfortunate in everything that's gone on with him recently. Because when I was looking through his,
yeah.
But how easy was it to work with all of them?
Again, it sounds an easy answer, but it was really easy. They're good people, and that's one of the things that I've found. Goalkeepers generally are really good characters, and we find a level, and again that's part of coaching. You have to find a level that you can motivate the players, that you can get the best out of them, that you have respect for each other. You don't always have to like each other. You don't have to be best friends, and that certainly isn't the case. I've had good relationships with all of them, some better than others, but there's a level of respect where when you speak as a coach, they listen and take on board what you're saying. And with all of them, at some point, they'll all say, well, I thought this, or what if I do this? And, what if I stand here? And as a coach, you've got to listen to that as well, because again, you're talking about Thomas Sorensen, Danish goalkeeper who played 101 times for his country. At one point, so I had Thomas, I had Asmir, who was probably sort of 23 at the time, and Jack coming in, who was 19. And, Jack had played at every level internationally for England and captained the under 21s, I think, at the age of 19. He'd actually played for England at 18, so for a full national game at 18. So, although he's got sort of lots of credits to his name, the experience possibly wasn't there, So you're trying to balance out being sort of telling one thing and how he should be doing it, and how the young ones should be doing it, but then taking into account that they're all 3 different goalkeepers in their own right. They all do it slightly differently. They've all got their own sort of key attributes, key strengths that they've all got, and none of them sort of particularly keep goal in exactly the same way. So, and it certainly isn't a one size fits all for myself. It's being able, and again, it's being able to recognise what are the strengths of those goalkeepers, and how do we use them to the best of their abilities, and where do we think they're a little bit weaker, and how can we make some improvements there. So that's certainly the way that I look at it, and that as a group of I put Lee Grant in there, Adam Federici in there, Carlo Nash, Steve Simonson. I'm trying to think if I've missed anyone, but they're all top personalities in the first place. And
Carlo Cudicini there at one point as well. Was he
there?
No,
not Carlo Cudicini. No.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
No?
Yeah, no, not
Cudicini.
No.
I might be getting my timelines mixed up there.
No.
Yeah.
It'd have been a good one to have in, though. Yeah.
Yeah. I had Tony Parks on a few weeks ago, and obviously he got to work with Carlo.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Again, one of those goalkeepers, Mr. Reliable. He got on, he done his job, and it's done brilliant with his career as well, didn't he?
That's right. That's right.
But I know, obviously, you mentioned you've got different goalkeepers, different characteristics in the senior game.
Yeah.
How early would you see that in academy players, when you jump down and you oversee the academy goalkeepers? Would you want them to play in a certain way, or would you kind of tailor that to potentially the build, the height, the physical attributes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm fairly set on how I want to see the set position, for example. How do I want you to see? Well, let's start with this, and then we'll see how it goes afterwards, and you may find, in terms of, like you say, the physical attributes of a player might affect that in some ways. But if this is our start position as an academy goalkeeper in terms of your set position, your foot position, your balance, I don't think you can go far wrong from where I want you. But okay, if something else might suit you a little bit more, if it's a slightly wider stance, if it's a slightly wider hand position, then let's go from, then let's see how it works for you. So yeah, I mean, strict isn't the right word, but I think, I certainly know what I want when I'm working with a young player. And then again, that's which way do we go with it in terms of how we use those attributes that the players got in terms of speed, agility, physical makeup, size, limb lengths, and all of that sort of stuff. How does it look? And again, with young goalkeepers, it's not going to look the same all the way through. They'll go through growth spurts, growth phases, and we have to understand those things as well. So as a coach, you're looking out for those growth phases, and how that affects players as well, and how, do we make adjustments? Is it a technical thing? Is it a growth thing? Is it a physical thing? We have to try and spot all these little elements as we go along through. When you see a goalkeeper go from, I don't know, like an under 10 to an under 13 or 14. There's so many things that change within that. Not just their physical development, their mental development, them maturing, going from, whether it be 7v7 to 9v9 to 11v11, the goal size is changing. All of these things will impact on a player's development during those phases. And I could give you an example, actually. Someone who's probably not too far, Carl Darlow. I worked with it as from sort of under 11, 12 to 15-ish. I think it was roughly. I might be adding a year on one way or another, but at Aston Villa. And I always remember he played up, or he went up, and he was playing in bigger goals at the time, full-size goals. And he went through a phase. He was playing up an age because he had the ability, but he kept getting chipped. And the coach comes back to me and says, well, he's getting beat over his head. We can't play him. Well, it's not his fault. That's you want him to play because he makes saves, and he's decent with his feet, and he's energetic, and he's got all these other qualities. It's not his fault that, a bigger kid can kick a ball higher and over his head, and they've noticed they can do that. Fair play to them. So they're all the different things that kids have to deal with, and as a coach, certainly as a goalkeeping coach, you have to level them out and hang on, stick with it. Okay, if you see it knocks his confidence, you might have to drop him back again, but that's a judgment you make based on how the player's dealing with it at the time as well. So it's not just based on, well, we're losing the game, or he's cost us a few goals and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, it's being very mindful of all of that.
So it wasn't a case that you would go in there and go, right, Carl, let's drop you back a couple of yards in your start position. You would want him to continue to play in the same positive way, keeping the same start position, and obviously trusting the process that he's going to grow, and when he does grow, he's going to be more competent and more capable.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the case for me. I mean, you're quite right. There are things that you could do, but then I think what you gain from that is making a save where a ball goes over your head. It's something that he might need to be aware of, and he might need to make an adjustment at certain times within that position. And if he's got the ability to do that at that age, then that's even better for him. That's kudos. That's brilliant. But really, it is trusting the process. I think there's more to gain from staying in those positions that you believe in and you understand. And the gains are there more over the pitch in general play, and certainly working on different angles and things than sitting deeper in your goal and maybe being a bit negative, thinking, oh, well, he might kick it a bit higher. Well, okay, that's something we might have to accept for a little while.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice as well, because I think a lot of coaches potentially, especially outfield coaches, if they recognise that happening, they might ask the goalkeeper to play a little bit deeper, but then they're neglecting or losing sight of the reason why they might be starting high in terms of, can they defend that space and behind? Can they be more effective in dealing with through balls and 1v1s?
That's
where
right.
Obviously adjusting the position and making them play a little bit deeper might affect a larger part of the game.
That's right, and it is. The game is about, no matter what age it is that you're at, it is a process, and you start in one place and you're trying to improve little areas around where you are now, and how do I get a little bit better at that? How do I get a bit better at that? How do I affect the game in a different way? And as you get older through that, under 9s to under 12s, it's fun, and it's about making saves and diving around, and you might get a few higher balls, but not many. Then you go into that 12 plus, and all of a sudden you start seeing what you might call proper crosses coming in, and you do have to defend the space, and we do have to play out with a purpose, and we do have to have a range of passing to an extent. And then you get to 15s, and you're expected to have a real range of passing. Can you kick to the halfway line? Can you pick players out? Can you play through and round? Now you really need to come and deal with some crosses and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it is a process, and by taking something away, like I said earlier, and you sort of said there, you lose a big chunk of what you're building on. To be honest with you.
Yeah. So at that younger age, we've got a good mix of goalkeepers in here listening. We've got a couple of coaches as well.
Yeah,
it's a case of kind of, as you say, developing smaller parts of your game with a bigger picture in mind. So it might be that at 10-year-old, you start to try and develop the striking technique. You start to try and develop the technique and the judgment of come to deal with high crosses.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily expecting them to be able to execute it effectively and consistently in a game at that point. But by the time we get to 15, that's when we should really be looking to become a little bit more consistent and
that's right,
and really being more effective in what they're doing.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like you say, the physical elements come into it, and you have to start that process of catching balls above your head, from a 7. The difference between an 8-year-old and a 9 and a 10-year-old catching a ball above their head is massive, because it's a hard skill to do at that age, and it's where we are all weakest in this area. This is okay, and this is okay, but as soon as we get to there, that becomes difficult. And are our hands backwards? Are we looking at the ball? Where's the focus? How can we be strong in that position? And the difference, certainly for me, when you're working with an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old in that position is massive. And there's skills that you have to start and you have to build on, and you just have to become more consistent. And that's the same with ball striking as well. A side foot to a laces strike for an 8-year-old to a 10-year-old it's a massive difference. And then you gradually build that little bit of power, that little bit of distance. Your technique becomes a bit more accurate, and you learn to lift the ball off the floor a little bit better over longer distances, and become more confident manipulating the ball.
Yeah. So in terms of phases, so you've got your foundation phase, youth development, professional development. What would you say were the key areas for goalkeepers in each of those phases? So as they develop, what should they be looking to work on more?
And certainly for me, a key element throughout is your, I'll call it your coordination, your agility, not particularly speed, but being able to manage your body. So real coordination and agility for me at certainly the younger ages, and that middle youth development phase. By a sort of a PDP phase, you should be there and you're working on your real speed and power elements, but certainly your coordination and agility in those younger phases. And then your core elements, and it's just becoming consistent. Those core elements of your distribution, being able to strike and pass with both feet, and that's a real big one. Obviously, everybody has to be able to play with both feet at the moment to a good extent. So, how much of that can we get into young players as coaches? Young players have got to practice with both feet. They've got to be able to play with both feet at the moment as goalkeepers in the modern game in today's football. And then it's working out. For me, a 9 to 12-year-old, keep the ball out of the net. How do you do it? And that really follows through all the age groups. And we've all seen goalkeepers that have a knack of keeping the ball out of the net. And we give you the techniques and we show you where to stand and your positional sense and things like that. And it's taking those things on board and then being able to execute and make vital saves, So.
Have you ever really come across a young goalkeeper who, as you say, has been particularly good at keeping the ball out the back of the net, but of maybe not being as textbook or as orthodox as you would like, but at the same time, you don't really want to go in to change too much because they're so effective with what they're doing?
Yeah, I think that, those goalkeepers, you come across them a fair amount, and they're the ones probably that are, because they have that knack, they're a little bit easier to coach in some ways. They probably lack positional sense, but what they have is an aggression and a will and a desire to stop the ball, and they find a way of doing it. And I think when you can sort of add some small elements of or small technical elements in terms of how they can best use what the qualities are that they've got, and give them some sort of tactical help positionally, that's when they can really flourish. But there's people have a knack of doing things. You watch modern goalkeepers, that's the wrong word to use, but you watch goalkeepers nowadays saving penalties. It's a very difficult thing, but there's certain goalkeepers that have a knack of saving penalties.
Yeah.
And some just don't. And, it's why is that? Do they do more homework? Do they just have a self-belief that they're going to make a save? I certainly don't think it's down to homework, because I think most coaches and most players really, really do their homework on players. Certainly, in a professional game, you understand every penalty taker that's in the team. You try and have a good insight into where they go, any patterns they might have, and all of that sort of stuff. But sometimes the goalkeeper just has a real belief that he's going to make that save, and that's what it boils down to, really.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting as well. So I'm looking into something at the minute around the spread technique.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that's probably used a lot, but sometimes not either executed or utilised in the correct ways. But what I found really interesting looking into it was, obviously going back a few years now, Peter Schmeichel was the original. He somehow had this knack of knowing how to spread, when to spread, and he kept a lot of balls out the back of the net by using that unorthodox technique. Yeah. And then you look at Kasper, and he is exactly the same. Yeah. He knows, he seems to instinctively know when to spread, and he knows when to stand and react. Yeah. Which is it's outstanding.
Yeah. I think there's a lot in that. I mean, there's for me, spreading and blocking is all about distances and timing, and you've got to get your distances right. you've got to get your timing right, and you've got to be brave. And the biggest thing I see with a lot of goalkeepers is that you'll see that turn of the head. As soon as the head turns, you've been beaten. You know, the one thing that you'll see, and I picked a couple of clips from Alisson last season, and it was there's a couple of pictures of him making a narrow block, really, sort of a near post, and you know, he times it. He goes into that position. He gets the ball right in the face, but he never turns his head. And you know, you'll always, if you, and I'll use this term to young players, senior players, put your face on the ball. So if you attack the ball and you put your face on the ball, you've got to lead with your head, and as you know, your timing's got to be right and everything else. But if you lead with your head and you put your face towards the ball, you stand a bigger chance of making that block save than you would otherwise. And as soon as you turn the head, the shoulders turn, everything else goes. You're leaning backwards, ball flies over your shoulder invariably and in the back of the net. But put your face on it. I've never seen anybody get hit in the face with a ball and it end up in the net yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you've got to be able to make your body as big as possible. You've got to, and it's interesting you're saying you've got to bring your kind of like your head towards the ball as well, because you're cutting that distance above you as well, I suppose, by narrowing the angle and meeting the ball a little bit earlier. Yeah. But as well, I think sometimes with the block and with the spread, what you'll see is it's body control as well. Like you say, the shoulders turning. But sometimes a goalkeeper will spread, but instead of moving laterally to move forwards, they'll continue to move laterally and spread kind of like away from the line of the ball.
Yes, yeah.
So it's physical attributes as well, like acceleration, deceleration, agility, and
it is.
I think it's probably not worked on enough in training sessions. I know myself, I get an hour a week with goalkeepers. Do I really want to be doing acceleration, deceleration, lateral movements, or do I want to get them in the goal and do I want to get them to work? So how much emphasis would you, especially with younger goalkeepers, how much emphasis would you place on kind of like the physical side of the game as opposed to the technical side, and how much do they really complement each other?
Yeah, I'm very big on the physical, always have been. I'm a big believer in, I said earlier, you know, your coordination and agility, and that's not jumping through hoops. For me, it's basic footwork movements. And when I started working in academy at Derby and Aston Villa, you know, we're talking 15 odd years ago. You know, we didn't. Yes, you measured the kids, but you know, but we didn't have all the staff around you to measure growth spurts and things like that, and to manage that sports science element around it. And you could pick up a growth phase by watching somebody work through some hurdles, some basic footwork, you know, forward, backward, lateral hurdle work, lateral cone work, watching how their feet move, watching how their legs move. You can see where a kid is in his growth phases, if he's into one, if he's coming out of one. You know, you can see all of those things happening in front of you if you put those elements into your sessions. So I've always been big on it, and a big believer in having sort of, you know, they're your building blocks and they're your core elements, and there's things that have to be repeated so that you always have a building block to fall back on, and you always have a base to build on as well. And so things like that, I can say, okay, well, I can see, he's not look like he's moving that well through the discs or whatever, some hurdles or whatever it is that you choose that is. There's something that you can always go back to and say, yeah, I can see that because his feet didn't look like they were moving so well today. His ankles tucking in, his knees going out. Well, is he growing a little bit? Is he, you know, do his arms all of a sudden do this while he's moving, and he's out of coordination, and he's growing. Okay, so we start to understand those sorts of things when we haven't got all the staff around us. Certainly, as you get into youth development phase, the physical elements for me are massive. Acceleration, deceleration. You need to build those into your sessions, and you can certainly do that with using using the goal, using the ball. It doesn't have to be standalone physical elements. You've probably seen a 1v1 session I did for David on GK Nexus, which is part of a warm up, but it's also ingraining some techniques in blocking, and not a spread maybe, but certainly in different blocks, and being able to use a little bit of imagination to imagine distances and work on timing and footwork movements and getting into a ball to perform a spread or to perform a block. So using those sorts of things to sort of understand where the kids are at, to be able to get the elements across, physical and technical elements, and it's just in terms of that exercise, if you like, we're working on mobility, we're working on speed, we're working on deceleration, we're working on your core in terms of holding your body position and being able to manage your body, and then the technical elements of where your hands are, where your arms are, which way your hips are facing, which way, do I put my right knee down this way, my left knee down that way, all of those elements as well. So I'm a big believer in the physical elements, and certainly once we get into that PDP phase, they're really big for me.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned there as well, physical sessions aren't about jumping through hoops and what have you. I think there's been kind of like a huge surge in what I would class as social media goalkeeper coaches and social media goalkeeping sessions.
Yeah.
And I personally think they portray a bit of an unrealistic view on what goalkeeping should look like, or what a goalkeeping session should look like. And obviously going back 15 years, everything was completely different, where it was potentially probably a little bit more over technical. And maybe it's beyond that.
Yeah.
How's your kind of like your coaching style, and how have your sessions changed from when you started 15 years ago to now, and kind of what do you think of those social media goalkeeping sessions?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I probably worked as an academy coach. Everything was quite technically based, if you like. What we used to do was we used to play a lot of games with the groups of goalkeepers. So we'd have little 3v3 or 4v4 games at the end, where they were playing outfield, they were passing, they were moving, they were hopefully being out. Those games look like something like what they'd done within the session. So it might be a 4v4. We worked on crossing, and the session started with a cross, or it was a handball game or something like, those sorts of things. That was the game-related element within those sessions. As things have moved on, those goalkeepers now work a lot more within the team. So more often than not, the goalkeepers training night is on the same night as the outfield players. There's a split session. So, we might get, I think at the moment at Burton, we're working on sort of 3 45-minute to 1 hour blocks a week with the goalkeepers. And on the back of it, they have 45 to an hour with the team. So again, there's a lot of communication has to happen between, the goalkeeping coach and the outfield coaches to understand what they're going into. What those, like we spoke about at the start of the session, what's the session going to look like for my goalkeeper when he's done 45 minutes or an hour with me? What's he going to do for the next 45 minutes? I'm not just sending him there to be cannon fodder for a shooting session or, the goalkeeper's here now, we'll have a game. No, well, what does it look like? Is it like I said earlier, is it a defensive phase? Is it an attacking phase? How's it going to look for the goalkeeper? So managing those elements. I've lost my train of thought there. Go on, where were we? I was going down there.
Just talking about what sessions used to look like to what they look like
now.
And then...
Yeah, I mean, that was how it was for me, probably more technical. But I've formed my own. It's not my own. Everybody does it their own way. But certain things that I want my sessions to look like. Like I said, I want building blocks. I want things to fall back on, to be able to look at and say, yeah, that's where we're at. By doing something, I understand that that goalkeeper's in a good place. He's improved at certain things, or he looks a little bit off it from what he did today. Okay, I need to find something out, or he's tired, or he's growing, or something else. So my sessions are certainly developed, and the range of things that I'll work on have certainly developed. Blocking wasn't a thing 15 years ago. Young kids today will find that. Peter Schmeichel had started doing that and was finishing doing that 15 years ago. It's then since then become a thing that happens in football and in goalkeeping, and is part of our armory. And again, you go back to what do I teach young kids, and what do I think they should do? They need to be able to do everything, and I need to give them all the tools. And the job of that player then is to pull the right tools out the toolbox at the right time, and be able to use a narrow block or a spread or a smother. That's about decision making, and that's what makes you a good goalkeeper and a not so good goalkeeper, and that's what means the ball goes in the net or it doesn't. And they're the little things. It's how quickly, how well you can perfect those techniques, and which ones work for you and which ones don't, and then how you put them into practice and make saves with them, and use the right techniques at the right times.
So your sessions will take, obviously, going back to when you started, it would have been a lot more fixed. So this is the serve you're getting, this is the outcome that I want. Whereas now you're probably going, right, I'm going to put you into a scenario and you need to make a right decision on how you're going to deal with that scenario.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll work through. There'll certainly be there'll be sessions which are dictated, and they're my basics. And then you'll have sort of things where there'll be some random outcomes. Then I'll sort of move it on into more and more decision making purposes into your game. So I tend to work through that process. So it's sort of variable, random, and then the match. And that's where it kind of looks. So you'll have your constant practices, which might be those warm-up elements. You'll have some variable practices where you'll see, you might have one or two decisions to make, whether that be, simply a catch or a parry and that sort of thing, or then you'll have your random, where it might be a block or stand up and save or catch, parry, so it becomes, and that's the flow of my session, really. It's sort of constant, variable, random match, and that's where we work from, really.
And I know I asked it before as well, what's your opinion on these sessions that are done purely for social media? What do you think, there's any use in them, or do you think?
I mean, I think they're people's sessions. So if that's what people are putting on social media, then I've got no issues with that. There's things that you'll always take out, and I think as a coach, it's good to, I'll go on social media, I'll look at what other people are doing, and there's bits I'll like, there's bits I won't like, there's bits you go, I can see what they're trying to do. I'm not quite sure the outcomes there, but I could use that element somewhere, Yeah. And so you're always learning. You're always trying to, find other ways of doing things. But I feel like I've got a way of doing things, or a philosophy, if you like. I'm not quite keen on that word, but my way of doing things. But you have to keep that you have to keep people motivated. You can't do the same exercises and just keep doing them over and over and over again, so you have to evolve with that as well. And it doesn't mean that you go away from your philosophy. It just means you find another way of teaching it, and you learn different elements, and you bring different elements in. And I think that's been a key skill of mine over having longevity. Certainly at Stoke, he's trying to keep Thomas Sorensen motivated for 7 years. How do I do that? Well, I can't keep doing the same things with him every day for 7 years. So, you have to still, and you can't deviate from your philosophy, because that's what you stand by. There'll be little changes and chinks, and things will move slightly, but you can't change the whole thing just to keep him motivated. So you have to work to a line, and then, okay, well, how can I make an angled shot stopping session look better for him? How do I improve it? What can I add? Is it a piece of equipment? Is it another person? Is it a different start position? Me going into Brentford, they're a little bit more demanding on the goalkeeper in terms of defending the space, how high they want the goalkeeper to play. But that doesn't change my philosophy it doesn't mean I want him to be defending the goal from 6 yards when the ball's on the 18-yard line. If somebody's shooting from the edge of the box, ideally, I want you defending the goal from 3 yards, 2 to 3 yards. So that doesn't change my philosophy, but how do I make that work? Well, he needs to be high to defend the space. He's quick, he's agile, he's just got to move quicker. He's got to be really good at backward movement. So every shot stopping session I would start would be from a backward movement. So he would always start in a high position to drop into a position where he can make a save, because invariably within a game, he's never going to be on his line stepping into a ball. He's always going to be high, dropping back to make a save. So they're the types of things that you have to, for me as a coach, okay, it's a little bit, it's not different, but it's more advanced. It's, well, what do I do? Okay, I'll slightly change the sessions. There's no point in me starting sessions with forward movement all the time or lateral movement all the time, when actually most of the time he's going to be moving backwards, and that's where he's got to be really good.
Yeah. Is there anybody on social media at the moment who you look at and you go, actually, I really like what they're doing? Or
not that I could think.
Putting you on the spot, yeah.
You put me on the spot a little bit there, yeah. But no, I mean, I just like having a look. I'm not a big fan. I mean, if I put something on social media, it would probably look pretty boring in terms of a session to watch, because it is the session. But it's the old highlights reels with the big saves in the top corners, and bouncing off medicine balls and core balls and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, okay, I can see where it works, and having one of those balls kicked at you, well, yeah, I can see some of it, but it's not for me. But there's certain elements of it that you think, okay, well, that position might be okay, or that I can see how the goalkeeper's using a certain technique. So it's certainly just watching them having an understanding of what you're about really as a coach, and what your strengths and weaknesses are, and looking for, you've got to constantly be looking at little things that other people are doing to learn, and you can't afford to miss out, because, like I say, from where we were 15 years ago when I was coaching at Aston Villa's academy, the game's changed massively in terms of ball at feet, in terms of blocking, the way people cross, the types of crosses we face. It's incredible. So you have to stay current. You have to keep looking at different things. At certain times you'll be the one that will lead the way on a start position, or you'll be the one that will come up with something that you think's really new, and on other times you're saying, "Oh, I've seen he's done that, and I need to take a little bit from there and learn from that one." So
yeah, brilliant. I've just seen it flash up there. We're well over an hour now. And I'm really conscious of, obviously I know it's a Friday night. I haven't got a great deal to do at the moment, but
I've been locked down for about 6 months. I can talk all night.
So what I'll do is, if it's all right, as I say, I'm conscious of time, and I really appreciate the time that you've dedicated so far. It's been brilliant.
No problems.
I was just wondering if you had a little bit of time, if anybody else watching here has any questions. If you could take a couple of questions, we'll
of course.
maybe take about 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Jack, straight on. Good lad, Jack.
What's the best goalkeeper you've worked with, and why?
People have asked me that, and it's a terrible question because it's like choosing between my kids. I can't say that I've got a favourite one, but no, I mean they've all been really, really good goalkeepers. The 3-4 standouts for me at Stoke, Thomas Sorensen to start with, because of his impact in his first season and just what a top goalkeeper and a top guy he was throughout his period of time. Seeing Asmir Begovic come in, show what he could do in the Premier League, be an outstanding goalkeeper again, and and then get his move to Chelsea, fantastic. Jack Butland, his first season in the Premier League sort of set it on fire. Really, he was fantastic, representing his country. Was really good. Lee Grant came in at a slightly older goalkeeper from Derby County, came in on a free, took his opportunity and was player of the season. So I honestly can't choose between them, but they're all top goalkeepers, and every one of them I've worked with, I've got fantastic memories of them all for different reasons, really, I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I've not said one. Who's your favourite goalkeeper?
Well, in the world?
Yeah, go on.
Just done.
Sorry?
Freddie Woodman.
Freddie Woodman?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you a Newcastle fan?
Yeah.
No. No, Jack from Wales.
I know. I was joking. Yeah. You're a Swansea fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, good lad. He's been good for you, hasn't he?
He's really good at saving pens.
Pens, yeah. I know. I'm really pleased with how he's got on at Swansea over the last 2 seasons. He's a young goalkeeper who's got a lot of talent, and he's been really good. So, do you think you're going to get promoted?
Yes.
Playoffs or straight up?
Straight up.
Go on, lad. Good lad.
Who do you think's the best goalkeeper in the world?
Best goalkeeper in the world? At the moment, I'm torn between Ederson and Alisson, I have to say, at the moment. Alisson's probably had his little blips at Liverpool, but they've not performed so well. But I think overall, everything they offer to, in terms of saves and distribution and their overall contribution to the team, I think the two of them are fantastic. And I wouldn't want to be the Brazil manager picking one of those two, I have to say. Yeah.
What's your best advice for me going forward as a 9-year-old?
As a 9-year-old?
Yeah.
God, as a 9-year-old, enjoy your football and goalkeeping and dive around, throw yourself about, get as muddy as you can, and give your mum as many problems as you can cleaning your kit. I think that's the best one. But enjoy your football. That's the main thing.
Thank you.
All right. Nice to meet you, Jack.
Nice to meet you too.
Can I just expand on Jack's question about not necessarily a favourite goalkeeper that you've worked with, but if you could build a goalkeeper from all the goalkeepers that you've worked with through, let's go, shot stopping, dealing with crosses, 1v1s and distribution, who would you choose for each of them? I think that's probably a harder question, really, isn't it?
Oh, dear. Yeah. I'm going to start. None of them, well, I think I'll say 1v1's Jack Butland. Because I think he stands out in that and I'm talking about where they stand out from the others. So I would say 1v1's Jack Butland. Asmir, all over shot stopping. Thomas Sorensen would be dealing with crosses. He just made everything look very easy, although Asmir was brilliant when he came in. Distribution, probably. Well, working with David Raya probably in terms of distribution and calmness on the ball. Certainly that would be the one. So I think we're mentality. All of them have got top mentalities, but if I was to put a mentality in there, just because of that's what made him in the season that we had him would be Lee Grant, because he made the most of everything he got in terms of his talent, and I think his mentality was the thing that was the key change for him in that period of time. And he was fantastic. But I mean, they've all got top attributes and they've all got top mentalities. But that was a defining thing for him throughout that period of time that he was with us at Stoke.
Brilliant. Anybody else? Any questions? I'll go, Brassy.
Can I jump on?
Hi,
Andy.
Yeah. You okay?
Yeah, not so bad. Thanks for coming on tonight. Really appreciate the time you've given us. Some great information. Just first one, Andy. Obviously, you spoke about where you were 15 years ago. So, two sessions a week at a championship club part time, and what your sessions were like to where you are now. And if you look at the top level of the game, some of the top clubs have 2 goalkeeper coaches.
Yeah.
If you could fast forward 15 years ahead, where do you believe we'll be as goalkeeper coaches?
Well, it depends if Arsene Wenger has his way and changes all the rules and things like that. No offsides and playing football all through the summer instead of the winter. But I think the goalkeeper is going to become more and more important. That's for sure. He will be more of the team than he already is. The role of the goalkeeping coach is going to be more important, and this is something I've talked about for a little while in terms of, as coaches and goalkeeping coaches, we qualify as outfield coaches as well, and through experience I think we've got a lot to offer in terms of being that extra coach. And I certainly think in I call it lower leagues, but I certainly think in League 1 and 2, the goalkeeping coach, if not already, will become a more key member of that coaching team and take on more roles and responsibilities within the team, whether that be, as we're probably more known for set pieces and things like that at the moment, but more working with the defence, with defensive units and things like that, and just being a bigger role, being a bigger part of the team, certainly within those, I'll call it lower league, the 2 lower leagues, if you like, but and certainly through academy football as well. That we are well qualified, and we're in a very good place to affect everybody, not just goalkeepers.
Yeah. On that, Andy, do you see more goalkeeper coaches becoming first team coaches or managers?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I certainly think that's a possibility. Again, it will be experience that will get them there. It will be being able to, having that experience of working with teams and being in the right place. But I certainly think there'll be more opportunities for goalkeeping coaches going forwards. And you know, there will be more goalkeeping coaches at that top level. You know, working together, and one of those coaches I would see if I was in those positions would be working really, really closely with the goalkeeper plus whole of the team, and the other coach working with, you know, the fringe goalkeepers, if you like, or those that aren't playing straight away, and managing that really.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Andy.
Does that answer your question?
Aye, in a way, yeah.
Anybody else? If not, right, I think we're good there, Andy.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the chat and obviously the experience that you've had of working within the first team environment, but that filtering down into academy football, working with youth goalkeepers, I think it's been fantastic for the goalkeepers here to listen to. And there's a lot to take away from that. I think there's a lot of great content there, a lot of sense, and I think obviously it comes from a wealth of experience as well. So that was great to listen to as well, and great to be a part of from my point of view.
Yeah.
So
it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and you know, it's always a pleasure to talk about football and goalkeeping, and I hope everybody has a good end to the season, and hopefully we can all get out to watch a bit more football in the next season, and see a lot more goalkeepers playing live. That's for sure.
Well, as long as that isn't Newcastle, I'll be happy. Not much football being played over there at the minute, unfortunately. But
you might have to wait till next season for that.
Oh God! In the Championship, at least we'll get a derby.
I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, no problems.
Yeah, that was, as I say, mate, that was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.